and gentlemen, good evening, and thank you very much indeed for joining us tonight. My name is Justin Wateridge, and I have the pleasure and the privilege of running Steps Travel. And I'm delighted to say that we've got a great cast for you to meet tonight. Starting with the Director of Operations from Golden Eagle, Marina Linker, from the Curator of the British Library, Susan Reed, from descendant of Catherine the Great and Steps Travel tour leader, Katja Galitzin, the nation's favourite foreign correspondent, John Simpson, and author, railway historian, Christian Wilmar. We've got a very packed schedule for you, so without further ado, and on behalf of Steps Travel, it's my great pleasure to introduce Marina Linker. Marina.
Today, welcome to the special event where we are celebrating and marking the two milestones. One is the 100th anniversary of the Russian Revolution, and very important for us as a company, also the 10th anniversary of our flagship train, the Golden Eagle Trans-Siberian Express. We have started offering the tours in Russia just after the break of the Soviet Union in 1992, when our president and founder, Tim Littler, who's sitting here in the front row, came to Russia and wanted to run the steam tours in there. So our first tours that we have offered were the steam halt tours in the south of Russia. But then we decided to extend our business and travel along the longest and the most well-known railway in the world, the Trans-Siberian. So our first Trans-Siberian tour was in May 1996, and on that tour, it's the only one that we have managed to all the way to go by steam locomotives. 13,000 kilometers. And 72 locomotives were provided by the Russian railways. It took us a bit of a time to get there, but it was quite an adventure, I must say. After that, this tour actually laid the foundation for us to start operating the tours along the Trans-Siberian as the regular venture. And only in 2007, our long-standing dream come true of having the full and suite train in Russia. And it was launched in 2007. And one of the people, the person who launched our train was Prince Michael of Kent. So since that, we are operating a number of train tours along the Trans-Siberian. In the past 10 years, we have proudly hosted over 10,000 guests aboard the Golden Eagle and have traveled more than 1 million miles. The Golden Eagle has reached 14 out of the 15 of the former Soviet republics, as well as Mongolia, and most recent venture we have took the train to Iran. So it is a great pleasure to welcome you here in the evening and to mark one of the most important events of the modern history, the Russian Revolution, and to tell you the extraordinary story of the world's longest and greatest railway. Thank you very much indeed.
I'm not going to give you a chronological blow-by-blow account, but try and set the revolution in context, the context of Tsarist Russia, the context of the events of 1917 and the Civil War and their aftermath.
Good evening, everybody. Very nice to to see you all here. Where did the Golitzins have their main
So they were Muscovites, really, but they always, Petersburg, when Peter the Great moved the capital to and created St. Petersburg in 1703, of course they all had to have estates or palaces there, so there were a lot of them there. My actual grandfather was orphaned quite young. His family came from a country house called Marina, which is about 60 miles from Petersburg, which was a Stroganov and Golitsin estate. They all married each other, so we're all degenerate. And he was then sent to an estate near Tula, where his aunt lived. So he grew up in that area, Tula, the Black Earth of Russia. Very good hunting. So he had a pack of borzois.
On the Trans-Siberian in that period. My father, as a result of that, thought better of joining the Whites and fled in the other direction, ended up in Odessa, Marseille, Paris, and eventually in London in the Second World War. What basically happened was that Trotsky, who was there, fought back against the Whites using an armoured train. Sorry, this is a little interview. This is Strelnikov in Dr. Zhivago, who's really Trotsky, as you can see.
My own travels in Russia began in 1978, when it was, of course, as you can imagine, a completely different kind of society. As I was getting a drink and taking it across to my wife, I saw this rather well-dressed gentleman sitting there with white hair, he very charming, and he said to me as I passed, "So Siberia is featureless, is it?" Now this is a strange way, of course, of beginning a conversation, but it so happened that I think the previous month I'd written about one of the loonier leaders of our time, Kim Jong-il, the father of Kim Jong-un, with the man with the haircut, and Kim Jong-il went to Moscow by train. He didn't like to fly. It's one of the reasons I wanted to stir things up a bit on the BA magazine, I suppose. And I described all the different things that Kim Jong-il had taken with him, extraordinary numbers of food tasters and special kind of foods that only he would eat, and all sorts of sort of mad things. Mad dictators have always been rather an interesting. I had said about how Kim Jong-il's train crossed the featureless plains or something of Siberia. Well, that's what I thought they were. I mentioned being there, but and Tim said, one day I'll take you to Siberia and you can see for yourself what it's really like. And indeed, eventually, it took quite a long time, but eventually I went on this stunning train. Actually, it's slightly disturbing as it looks at this going off into the water, but it doesn't actually do that in real life. I imagine, I don't know, but I imagine that may be Lake Baikal, near Irkutsk. We've had this city mentioned several times this evening in different contexts. And Lake Baikal, which was along the stretch that of the Trans-Siberian of the Golden Eagle, that my wife and small son, he was I think then 5, and I travelled on. Lake Baikal is the most magical thing, natural phenomenon I think I've ever seen. It's enormously deep, and it is said to hold more fresh water than the whole of the rest of the world put together. And we had this sensational time in Irkutsk, and it was the most magical experience. But the train itself was also magic. We used to travel through the night on the train with the winter of Siberia on either side of the track outside, with the windows frosted up, with the sounds of a lively railway and the sounds and the motion of it all around us. And I held my son in my arms because that was the only way in which we could get to see. And the sound, the noises, the lovely warmth of the compartment compared with the freezing cold outside. I shall never ever forget that experience. There were lots of other lovely experiences, sitting in the saloon and having a drink with the other guests, the other travellers, making friends with them, talking to them. All of these things were a delight, but I don't think I'll ever forget being in that bunk, knowing that those incredible birch trees on either side, because it might not have been featureless, Tim, but there were an awful lot of birch trees along the railway line. Anyway, you shouldn't just take my word for it, because as I say, I rather was inclined to characterize the Siberian wastes rather inaccurately, as I now discover. But we've got a video which will also contain, I think, somebody else's thoughts and ideas about it. Anyway, I had the most wonderful time, and clearly I think the person that speaks on the video would agree with me. Thank you very much indeed.
The trip was wonderful in every way. From the beginning to the end, I can't even say enough about how fantastic it was.
The train was like going onto a moving luxury hotel.
This trip on the Golden Eagle has been absolutely wonderful from my perspective. My wife and I love to travel. We've been to many, many parts of the country and world, and this was an opportunity to see a section we'd never been to before. To travel from Moscow to Lake Baikal and then on down to Mongolia was an experience of a lifetime for us.
My wife and I have traveled quite a bit. I'm now approaching 100 countries. And so we had gotten a flyer from the University of Chicago, and it just looked like something that was going to be wonderful. We had heard quite a lot of good things about the Golden Eagle. It's a trip of a lifetime. And we started out in Moscow. Every one of the things was a surprise, even though we've traveled quite a bit.
The trip, I cannot describe any better as fabulous.
I think, personally, I think it was marvelous, really. I had a very good time.
Learning about the culture and the customs of Russia was truly an amazing experience. The train was so luxurious. It really was. It was the way to travel to see any kind of a destination that anybody was insecure about viewing.
Superb service from your cabin attendants.
The service during this excursion was something special. I cannot compare it with any other excursions that I do.
My wife said, well, I don't know that I really want to go on a train. It's a long ride. It has to be good. And she said all the way that it's been just wonderful.
The train was absolutely extraordinary. It's hard to imagine how somebody as a manager could arrange all the facilities, all the excursions, the support, the people, the visions, the swimming even in Lake Baikal, which I did, and all the little accoutrements which you usually don't get on any Siberia trip.
It was beautifully plush. The food was to die for.
The food was super. The people we had opportunity to meet on the train were just marvelous company to travel with. So it was all in all a first-rate experience.
I met the most wonderful people. I had a great fun.
Oh my goodness, it's been incredible. The culture in the train was just as interesting as the culture off the train. We had people from Chile and Andorra and South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, England, America, China. Just an amazing group of people to travel with who all brought their own culture to this. So it was really wonderful.
And their own perspective, which made the sort of end of the day always very entertaining, because everybody had a different sort of view of what we saw and how it and how it appeared through the lens of their culture.
It's a trip of a lifetime. It's an experience that you can't match anywhere else at a level of luxury and comfort which you might not get any other way.